pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, today is January 13th. Roll call.
Terry?
Here.
Aaron? Here. Meyer? Here. Caprows?
Here.
Coleman?
Here.
Leo?
Here.
The approval of the minutes prior board meeting, December 9th.
So moved.
Second.
The motion made and second. Any questions for the motion? Roll call.
Cleary?
Yes.
Aaron? Yes. Meyer? Yes. Caprows?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Leo?
Yes.
Clerk's report.
The only thing I have is the tax income received since the last board meeting totals $168,711.09.
Thank you.
Where does that put us on our quantity of payments for the state? Are we back on line?
Yeah, we're still in approval.
Okay.
I got 2 payments in the last month.
Any other questions? Is there anybody from the audience that would like to address the board? If not, reports to the commission, beautification commission here.
We're having a meeting, tomorrow meeting at 7 at the village hall.
Are you planning to be in there? Planning to be in there? Talk to you after the meeting.
Okay.
And the 4th of July commission, trustee Coleman.
Yes, last Thursday we had a meeting and the car bids are going out for the 2014 4th of July raffle car. Also there was a, excuse me, there was a discussion on possibly a new beer stand or even working with Summer Rec in conjunction with this combination beer stand and storage building, all depending on funds which come in the future.
Anything else, Frank?
That's it.
Youth commission, trustee Kaporis.
Coming up this Monday on Martin Luther King Day, when the kids are off school, we have open bowling. We've done it every year. We have the entire bowling alley rented out. People can contact us through our email for reservations for times. February 15th, we have the daddy-daughter dance, and March 8th, we have our mom-son dance coming up. And that's it.
When was the mom-son?
Mom-son would be March 8th.
Thank you. Ribbon of Hope commission, trustee Brown.
Ribbon of Hope, we just had a meeting this last Saturday. We talked about fundraising and also the treasurer's report. We have $8,020.08 in the pot right now. Our biggest issue is getting the word out, keeping the word out, and continue to fundraise. We do have a Facebook page. We had 112 likes on that as far as our networking page. But that's what we talked about as far as fundraisers, maybe doing some things like bingo, different things like that. So we're always looking for different ways to do it. But I'm also going to, again, plead for some donations and corporate sponsors and everything else. So that was what we had on Saturday. Our next meeting is going to be on Saturday, January 25th at 1 p.m. at Howard's office. We also talked about getting the agenda in within 48 hours, or 48 hours prior to the meeting so we can post it. So that will be posted. That ends my report.
Thank you. We have a presentation this evening from the Water and Sewer Master Plan for the area bounded by the Beecher School District by Baxter and Woman. And I'm sure they'll introduce themselves and we'll let them have the floor.
Good evening. I'm Derek Wold with Baxter and Women. For those of you who don't know me, I've been working with the village for almost 20 years. I was telling Bob earlier tonight that my first ever presentation to the village board was the Water System Master Plan in 1998. So lots been accomplished since that time. The water plan was updated in 2007, and again for this project The sewer master plan was first prepared in 2003, 2004, and again, it's been updated, and we'll present that tonight to really look at a much larger planning area with the pending potential for an airport, potential for the Ileana, so to be able to accommodate those areas in your facilities. I'm here tonight with Tony Anzer. Tony did a lot of the analysis work on the project. He's probably more familiar with Beecher actually than I am. He went to junior high and high school here, and his wife teaches at the grade school, so both of us are very, I guess, intimately familiar with the village. So what is the purpose of a master plan? What is a master plan? And what it is it's a study to evaluate your existing system. In this case, it's the sewer system, the water system, to determine if there's any deficiencies in the system or how it performs to provide water and wastewater services to the residents. It also is used to plan system upgrades, and the village really should be commended for doing these plans over the last 20 years. They've been used numerous times as developments come into town, or to plan for upgrades, or apply for grant funding. You've got a plan on the table then that's ready to go for your budget purposes and the plan for the future. And then again, for planning for future
Derek?
development. Yep.
Just come over here. He's trying to film for this. There you go.
Very good. All right. So what are the steps of a master plan? On the drinking water side, there's really two parts of this. One was the drinking water side. We put together what we call a water gems model. What a model is, it's just we created a little GIS system that we could actually use later to build off of if the village wants to do a GIS for the city, which is just a map of all of the water system components. So it's a map with all the hydrant locations, water main sizes, tower locations, and they can be used to simulate the performance of the water system in the event of a fire or a new development coming into town. So it's a really nice tool for you to use in the future. Water storage analysis, we look at how much storage you currently have and how much is needed going into the future. Water main capacity analysis, again, we look at the size of the water mains, see if they're big enough to carry water for a fire and for future growth. Water supply analysis, we looked at the well capacity, and then we looked at potential future locations for water mains, storage tanks, booster stations, and wells. The second part of it was on the sanitary side, so the sanitary sewer pipes. We looked at the existing sewer capacity analysis, and where the sewer, we have flow monitoring data. We actually measured the flow rates in the sewers probably 5 years ago. So we've got good information on how much flow is in the sewers, and when they're not large enough for now or in the future, we put in relief sewers. And if you recall, we put in a large relief sewer just south of Miller, or north of Miller Street, south of Miller Street a few years back to convey additional flow to the pumping station there by the school. Treatment plant size analysis, we did not get into the treatment plant analysis. That's something that's been done in the past and should be done here probably in the near future with some new regulations. But what we really looked at in this is the capacity of the plant, 600,000 gallons per day, which is about 6,000 people. And it could be expanded to 12,000 people with a relatively, it's a big upgrade, but without too much impact because it's within the existing site. But what do you do after 12,000 people? Where would the sewage go? And where would you put a new treatment plant if that should happen? So then the future locations for those facilities. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tony to talk about the kind of details.
All right. Thanks, Derek. With a master plan, one thing to keep in mind is that the plan that we'll present here, it's a very good plan. It's comprehensive for the planning area, which is the school district boundaries, and just the master plans, they continually get updated and tweaked a little bit depending on where development comes in. Like to kind of overemphasize the point, if you have a town, existing built-out town, and you have a large development that comes in a few miles away, maybe you'll have to put in some pipes sooner than you originally were planning on in our master plan. And so all this just to make the point that plans get updated as time goes by. Sometimes we forecast the sewer and water demands by area, and sometimes those change depending on development sizes or the time that those get built. Moving on to the planning area, you see that the existing gray area is all the area that's currently annexed by the village, and that's basically all the area that the village has currently promised to provide water and sewer those two. The yellow area is the boundaries of our planning boundary, which is the school district zone. And so we're going from about 3,900 acres planned to about just under 37,000 acres. So it's a decent size upgrade, and now we'll get into the various improvements. Here's a map of, and we have a hard copy of the report if anybody would like to look into a little more details. I know on this it's kind of hard to see exactly what's going on, but this is a map of the existing water system for the village. The different color pipes are the sizes of the water mains. One thing that's very nice of the village is that from a water supply capacity, the village has no issues with water supply. You roughly have about twice the supply that of your daily demand right now, which is great. The wells have great capacity, and it has more than enough for the whole annexed area to be provided water with. We get into water mains. The master report gives a list of water main replacement recommendations by priority. But the highest priority water main, as we're going to point out, is on Penfield Street from Dixie Highway west to Woodward. So that'd be the highest priority water main to replace, just for how many breaks we've been having on that main and just for flow characteristics in the village. This map here, let's your eyes a second to focus on. Again, the purple area, the purple lines are all those water mains that are already in the ground. And the blue area, this gets into, having Derek alluded to before about the water model that we put together. We use the water modeling information for it to help us calculate where to put future water mains and how large. So all the blue lines there, this is a grid of 12-inch water main, and they're spaced a half mile to a mile depending on the various areas and the water needs. So what this map shows, and again we have another copy if anybody wants to look at it a little closer, this just shows when the planning area is totally built out, this is what we're anticipating the water system will look like. The purple areas won't change because those are already pipes in the ground, and then all the blue lines are future water mains that will be going in. A couple items to note is that the yellow area up to the top is the area of the airport, and then near the bottom third you'll see a couple of green lines going through, and that's the area of the Indiana Expressway. There's a couple of notes over on here. You see kind of some dark circles throughout the area, and those are locations of water storage facilities. When everything is built out, there'll be approximately 10 to 20 additional wells and 4 to 8 additional water storage tanks. That kind of gives us the overall view of what we'll be looking at when everything is built out for the water side of things. Oh, great. Now we get into the sewer system. This one is, again, I'll kind of give you an overview of what we're looking at now. This is, all the different colored lines are different pipes that are in the ground. And these are for the sewer side. So those are all sanitary sewers. The different colors show the sizes of the different sewers. And as Derek alluded to before, when we do our master plan, for each of the sewers, we put a spreadsheet together that calculates the capacity of the sewer based on its size and slope and some other characteristics. And then we figure out what the sewage going to, what the flow rates are going to each pipe. There's a couple of sewers I just wanted to point out that when the annexed area is all built out, there's a few sewers that are going to be at about completely full, and that is along Church Road from the Dixie Highway west of Trim Creek. We got the Cardinal Creek trunk sewer, which is down the street here, and the Trim Creek Industrial Park trunk sewer, which runs around Trim Creek from Church Road south about a half mile. And those sewers are sewers that have capacity for the existing plan for everything that's going to be built in the grade area. But if anything additional outside of the gray area was to be built, like another subdivision, then those sewers that we mentioned would have to be upsized or we have to install a new sewer for.
Does that include the Cardinal Creek one too, Tony?
For the
Cardinal Creek sewer? Yeah. I I know we oversized that lift station to handle a
Yeah.
ton of PE, but the sewers going into it may not be large enough.
Well, the lift station has capacity to be up, the lift station has pumps in it right now that will be upsized later, so the station is getting upsized. And on the Cardinal Creek trunk sewer itself, there's just a couple sections of sewer that have capacity issues. So that's like the trunk sewer main, but, so that there is, if anything more than the gray area was built, so say a large development east of Hunter's Chase East was built, yeah, then we'd have to upsize one or two pipes along that section, depending on what the.
Now, if it came around the back side of that development, which is like H8, which is a large blocked area to the right in that corner, if you came through that and connected back to Cardinal Creek Pumping Station, you wouldn't have to upgrade at all.
Right.
You'd just be going to that one.
Correct.
The issue you probably have is the force main out of that going back to the sewage treatment facility.
Yeah, because, like you're saying, I mean, if you ran another pipe around the other way, then
Right.
you wouldn't be touching that.
You're doing dual flow.
Right, exactly. Great. And then, as Derek touched on, the existing treatment plant has a capacity of 0.6 MGD, and we're looking to upgrade that to 1.2. Now we're looking at another map that has lots of information on it, so I'll kind of walk you through this one before you know it. So this, again, the outer boundary is our planning area, which again is the school district zone. And there's the network of pipes that you can see here. And the future wastewater treatment plant is the one highlighted magenta there. That's where eventually all wastewater will be treated at from the village. So the order of events would be that the existing wastewater treatment plant would be upsized to 1.2 MGD, and then from there, the next major wastewater treatment plant improvement would be to build a second plant. And all the kind of maroon colored lines, those are the new sanitary sewers that we put in the ground. And then there'd be two, it kind of gets into the details here, but then there's a, okay, I walk up?
Oh, yeah, great.
You gotta get one of the laser pointers.
So here's our wastewater treatment plant 2, and then we would have, so all of this flow here, all the village, and all of this area here would flow directly to wastewater treatment plant 2. This area over here will all flow to a regional pump station here, and this pump station will get pumped to the wastewater treatment plant. And then kind of the mirror image happens over here. This whole area will get pumped to a regional pump station here, or will drain by gravity to a regional pump station here, and then get pumped to wastewater treatment plant 2. And then what's nice is that there's enough elevation difference between the existing wastewater treatment plant, which is right here, to bring it down to this treatment plant by gravity, so that this plant could be used as an excess flow facility or abandoned, and you won't have to have a pump running all the time to send the village flow there. So that will drain by gravity at that point.
Where's that located at?
Oh, we're like Kentucky Road right by Tree Creek. In that area.
So it'd be on the south side of the new expressway, or tollway.
Yes, yeah, here's the kind of hard to see from here, but yeah, here's the line work for the expressway, and so we're able to south of it there. And we're basically, all these major sewers are basically following the creeks. So we got Pine Creek here, Trim Creek, Exline over here. Yeah, great. And with that, that's the overview of our presentation.
Can you go back one?
Sure.
We had a lot of discussion about locating sleeves and easements under the Uliana Expressway. We went to a meeting last week where we were told by IDOT that all crossings for the Uliana would be treated as a permit process. A lot similar to the IDOT right away. And they said, don't worry about the location of the easements because when you know where the pipe's gonna go, you just apply for the permit. And then I said, well, I wanna make sure that the P3 agreements allow that to happen. Because I'm afraid that if there's a P3 agreement, the operator of the road might believe they have franchise rights on any underground pipes that go through their their property, and IDOT said they would take care of it. So it would be very similar to Illinois Route 1 right away, where you have to cross with a pipe, you have to get a general permit from IDOT. So you don't really need an easement, you just need a permit. That's good news for us, because now we don't have to locate these sleeves or these easements.
We stress that whatever they can do now to make it easier for us later to get these easements wherever we need them. And I think we pretty much heard that clear.
And you would have to pay like an ongoing license fee then?
No. And then you have the 2-year annual renewal on the maintenance agreement with IDOT that you have to do. The one problem they had with looking at our plan, and basically what we showed, we didn't show them this, we showed them some lines on a piece of paper, is when these sewers follow these creeks, you're running into piers when they're going over the creek with their bridges. So we have to look around there on a pier foundation. And then the second question is we've had some discussions with the manufacturer south of town that was considering hooking up to our sewer plant from the south. And I don't know if you guys are fully aware of that situation, but do you think that's feasible?
Yeah, depending on the flow rate from it, there is capacity at the existing treatment plant, which would treat 600,000 gallons per day, and I think you're somewhere around 350,000 right now. 400,000, well, yeah, with the INI, but in low flow, less than that. So yeah, there is capacity. I think we should look at the composition of that wastewater just to make sure there's not anything in there that can't be treated. The ammonia level would be something we should take a quick look at, just to see if there's any heavy metals or something out of the ordinary coming out of
They
it.
have a copper removal process they have to do before they give us the problem they have is copper removal.
Okay.
We have a huge.
So we want to take a look at their pre-treatment, and we would also want to put in place an agreement with the industrial user that lays out the groundwork on what they can and can't discharge to the plant. So in case there's an upset at the plant, say their pre-treatment facility goes down and they release copper and it kills off your plant, you've got a violation, that they should pay for any damages. So there should be an agreement put in place. But these are done all the time. We work on that kind of stuff all the time, and it's not unusual at all. And I think it's something that certainly could be done.
Would you need a lift station if you're coming from the south going north?
Yes. You got it, because you're down.
Right.
It's the advantage is where the second treatment plant is, it's gravity's going with you. So if you do install that from that facility, you're gonna need to pump up with the idea that you need to come back in the future. It's just going up towards the existing site, that pipe's gonna be smaller than what you need to do full flow to the one from the existing facility.
Yeah, I think it would be cheaper it definitely would be cheaper to treat it at the existing plant, or even expand the plant to 12,000 people, or 1.2 million gallons a day, rather than trying to build a whole new plant.
Right.
But once you get to that 1.2 MGD, that site is really built out. There isn't any other space there to expand it.
Anybody else have any questions? You have anything else?
The full report has pages and pages of details and cost estimates for, a big part of what our plan has is lots of details, like for each sewer section, you have a ballpark cost of what it costs to install and elevations that we'll be looking to install it with. So with our report, what's really nice is say you sit down with a developer and they're interested in developing something, you already have a preliminary design document in your hand where they can look at it and say, oh, I have to install 2,000 feet of 30-inch pipe at 20 feet deep. So it's something that's a really nice working document to give you fast numbers and help you with negotiations happen pretty quickly. But
Yeah, and the same with the water system. That grid Tony showed is saying that you need 12-inch water mains every half a mile, essentially. And it can be tweaked as we go along, but it gives you the groundwork for what would be needed. And we know that we can serve the area with 12-inch mains spaced every half mile and wells every 5,000 people or so.
Now what we would do with this plan, if it's approved, is this would become part of our comprehensive land use plan. You can't say we're gonna have high density land use here if you can't get water and sewer.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Take a 5-minute break.
Before we do that, I mean, it's on my agenda for later on, but if it's all right with you, Mr. President, I'd just go ahead while we're here and make a motion accepting the water and sewer master plan as an official document of the village.
Second motion on the floor. There was a second. Any questions on the motion? Roll call.
Quayle,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Capella,
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
And then, only other thing I would ask, guys, if, I mean, me and Brian received copies at the initial presentation at our committee meeting, but if we get a hard copy, I mean, you know, the rest of the trustees, that way everyone has one just for their own personal records and stuff like that also, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, we'll provide hard copies. We'll also give Bob a PDF too of the whole thing, so you've got electronic too.
Fantastic.
Is there any problem with putting it on the website if we do that?
Not at all.
It's just gonna be one big PDF.
Yeah.
We just might want to put a few of the names.
Maybe put a couple of the maps up.
Yeah.
A couple of the
Those would be
exhibits or
good to
something.
have, because then anybody who's coming in thinking about development, they can see what we're looking at.
If I got them.
Okay, we'll take 5 minutes while they break down.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Finance and Administration, Trustee Porter.
Tim?
Hi, everyone. If we start with the village accounts, you'll see a lot of movements this last month. A lot of things went on, and I'll try to briefly go through just what was done. The first thing was really a realignment of debts and some funding of accounts between village accounts. These aren't expenditures, but they're movement. Once a year, the administration passes out a memo, which is included in the treasury report, that says what needs to be done. Some are IOUs between, as you'll remember from previous board meetings, that somebody will owe somebody money, et cetera, and those changes were all made at one time in December. We also created and funded the 625 Dixie account, which didn't exist before. So you've got a brand new account there that was funded principally by general and O&M, and therefore you've created a balance in that account. All of those transactions would result in no change at that point. We also, of course, in December, bought the 625 Dixie building, which was now, which is later in the report, but which of course cost funds, and that's generally what the reduction of the $122,000 is for this period. So if you look at Bob's report, I won't try to go through each and every movement. I had trouble following myself in some cases, but I think that helped to realign the funds where they belonged in the future demand, the near future demand on some of them. Going to our commission reports, there isn't too much change. The beautification did have their house walk, so I think that increase there was due to the house walk funds that came in. Youth commission, you did the rink liner, and I think a miscellaneous check came through that had been outstanding. I did have a little inadvertent wish here. I gave Scott's group the number of $12,428, which was an error. It's $8,020, as he mentioned in his opening comment. There was, I think, around 600 worth of donations. We brought that balance up a little bit, so I'll correct that. The next page is the 625 Dixie accounts. We'll probably want to handle this account like we did the public work building, which is kind of to track these expenses and how we're doing against our budget, which is really the balance as we go forward. So I'll probably include this each month, so we'll have as things heat up, we'll have a running total of the expenses and all of the items that will come to be that will be causing it. But basically what you see here at the start is the funding and the purchase. We funded the account with $295 from general, $95 from O&M, creating that IOU back to general. We put our earnest money of the $12,500. We did that in November, so we paid that back. And then we had the one check expenditure, which was the survey for that $1,700, and then we purchased the building. So So in the end, we had our inflows at the 390, which is what we said we were gonna fund the account with. Right now, the outflows are the 120, 102, and leaving that back, excuse me, which is the budget, probably. We have our bills listed, commission. And finally, our graph, which shows our balance movements. Any questions?
On the village accounts, is that every account or just the ones at the village?
That's the village only.
Okay, so it's not like room and fold, it's just,
Right.
Any questions for the treasurer? I make a motion approving the treasurer's report and the financial report for the month of December.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there questions to the motion? Roll call.
Cleary.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Whalen.
Yes.
The variances reports are also included in our items for review as part of the board packets. And then the bills were also submitted to us. There's one additional bill that Bob's advised me of concerning the cost has to do with our liquor license. Is it the insurance, Bob, or how is it?
our liquor liability coverage.
Liability coverage. So that's an increase. Is it just a 533, Bob, or is it for both of these?
No, the 945 is for the liquor, the 533 is legal expenses pertaining to the co-op form, the drafting of the bylaws.
So it's a total of $1,478 that we're adding to this, that would go to Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services. There's also the bills in front of us for our review. If anybody has any questions, what's shown in bold is what's been added after the fact.
Yep. Too many.
This item is not on that, so that's why we wanted to bring it to your attention, and we'll pass that along with the bottom line.
I want to change one thing on the Kent water systems, the 1345, it says there repair damaged plumbing and new bathrooms. That's not the case. That was for defreezing the water service line we had that froze. They have a special machine that thaws out the water service line, so that's what that charge was for. And it was on our side of the dock.
It was on the one in Calhoun.
It was on
Or Prairie.
yes, and you'll hear more from sewer and water committee on that later tonight. But it's not for repair damage plumbing and bathrooms. I forgot to change that title.
Bob, does that bring, I'm just kind of looking at the numbers, that brings a total to about $144,635.52.
Yes.
Any questions concerning the bills in front of us? I make a motion approving the bills for the month of December 2013 in a total of $144,635.52.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor, and there was a second. Any questions to the motion? Roll call.
Whalen.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Cleary.
Yes. The 5-year plan was provided by Bob under separate cover. Everybody should have received this. It came out over the holidays. Bob provided some nice paperwork for us to read during the Christmas holidays and the snowfall. If anybody's got any questions, let us know. We're going to move forward with that as part of our use as the input into our planning purposes. So I make a motion adopting resolution number
2014-1.
Which is the 5-year financial plan for the years of 2014 through 2018.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor, and there was a second. Any questions to the motion? Roll call.
Cleary.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Whalen.
Yes.
We haven't forgotten about the treasurer's ordinance. It's still out there. But all the other activity going on has kind of taken our village attorney's attention, so we haven't forgotten it. It's just been deferred. And yes, village code revisions are still happening. We're not out of the woods yet. chapters 11, 12, and 13 are not completed yet, but once the attorney gets back onto it, we should have that behind us also. I presented everybody the, I'll kind of go through this quickly, but Bob had sent out an email I requested at the last board meeting for people to provide any stipulated dates for each week of what would affect them for us from moving the village board meeting. What you'll notice is every person has a slotted area. A good example, Scott has them yellowed. It's primarily because Scott has conflicts those days based on his job. Mondays work for Scott. So if you look at the first, second, and third, so each one of these is going to give you the week in and of itself. Then you'll have everybody who was needing to provide input. Jeanette had indicated she had provided. I didn't get it, Jeanette, so I'm going to have to go back through that. And then that gets you all the way down to the fourth week, and we took every month as being weeks. Anybody who provided comments that could not be clearly defined as this day affects me, I provided those notes on the back. Tim Kuiper provided some additional information that if we do go to a fourth week of the month, he would have some conflicts he'd have to work around to work around that. And we'd also have to evaluate how we're going to be paying bills, where it would be the finance chair approving them and then it being put in front of the board afterwards. We've also listed out a lot of the information. John provided some of these, as did Bob, of items that were out there. And you'll notice that in the third week, you've got chamber that's shown up from John. Greg, of course, shows it blanked out, and Bob provided it as the chamber, EastCom, board of directors of those days. John provided the library. Marcy's got work that's conflicting for hers, and also Bob indicated that that's the library district, which would be the third Tuesday. Beecher Youth, Bob and John both provided that. And then Marcy's got Lions on the third Thursday, and the suburban mayors and managers meeting is going to affect Bob on that day. And then we have Friday's also a bad day for Marcy for work. So when you look at this, and then if you go where you'll see it green, those are the days that Tim said if you move them, I can probably support it, but there are some conflicts. I just need to reschedule something if we were going to do it on the fourth Monday or the fourth week. The issue you're going to have by getting into the fourth week, you're going to have a problem when it gets around Labor Day or Memorial Day weekend, because no one's really around those times, so that could be a problem also. But we're looking to see if we can move the village board meeting, and it's more than just John and I going to the board meeting. The thing we need to remember is the residents need to be able to go to all of these meetings. They should have the right to come to these meetings, even as you notice, there's only 4 people in attendance, and one of them is our public works supervisor. But the residents should have the right to come to these meetings. We're elected officials, we service them, they don't service us. The school board is 67% of our taxes. It's been stated by the prior head of the school itself, the school superintendent prior to the current one. The residents have a right to be involved in these. They have a right to come to these and talk to these and not have to circumvent going to another one where it's 67% of their taxes. I think we need to find a way to work around this and see what's going to work for everybody to make this happen. That's kind of my spiel on the whole mess, but I think we need to think of a way of moving the board meeting to another day that's doable for everybody. And if it's got to be the third week or the fourth week, so be it, and we just have to come up with a way of how we're going to pay bills. Because we cannot be late in paying our bills. We're not going to be like the state of Illinois and defer our bills for months on end and pay late fees. So if it turns out we're going to do that and have the village finance chair review the bills and approve them, we're most likely going to need an ordinance modification to that for that to happen, I would expect. And we would probably need to consult the village attorney if we're going to do that. So, again, these items are in front of you for your information, so we can come up with what we believe is going to be the resolution to move this thing forward.
Question. If you had a suggestion, what would the suggestion be?
I would like us to move it to Tuesday, the second week, but that directly conflicts from Marcy's way.
Okay, technically, though, we should be having 2 meetings a month, when and if the agenda items begin to pick up. So what would be the second date then?
Do you have no conflict on a Monday? The fourth Monday is what you have right now. it's not on the list, but right now, your fourth month, you're the second and fourth Monday of the month. That still keeps you a two-week spread. So if you do it a Tuesday and you do that Monday, you can get away with that.
So you're suggesting 2 different days then?
You got 2 different days regardless. It's the second of the week. You got the second week and fourth week.
Okay, what I'm asking you is that you're saying Tuesday and a Monday, or are you saying one meeting's gonna be on a Tuesday and one meeting's gonna be on a Monday?
Yeah.
Okay. So tonight you're just asking to take that into consideration?
Take that into consideration or provide any additional information that causes you conflict. I mean, I'm looking for conflicting dates. That's why, I mean, I'm happy that John stepped up and started saying, hey, don't forget about these dates. And then Bob provided even more details of everything else going on, which was good to have because we want to make sure, one, the village administrator needs to be at your meetings. So if he's got a conflict, there's a problem.
This takes precedent over into the meeting.
But again, we're involved with EastCon, we're involved with the suburban mayors. We're involved in them, and it's a key issue. But I think we need to look at other options that are in front of us.
I think any of those meetings that you have listed, Bob, are important because we need to be able to have representation there if needed. The same reason why me and Brian are bringing this up about being able to attend school board meetings and residents having the option to attend both meetings if need be and not having to choose which one they go to that night. It's about representation, and as Brian said, I think the key thing to remember here is that we are public servants. We are here for the public. And we need to work around that. We can't just keep saying, well, that's the way it's always been. They need to pick and choose what they go to. That's not the idea of it. So, I mean, I'd just be curious if, you know, any of the other trustees, their opinions on this. I mean, when it was brought up last month, it was kind of quiet, and again, this month, it's kind of quiet.
Well, I think, though Brian has said, though, that he wants to present this for information, probably for discussion at the next month's meeting.
I'd love to.
We're just seeing it
Yes,
tonight.
I think everybody needs to see what's in front of them and see what they think is gonna be a good solution.
And then now Brian has suggested what he thought would work, the Monday and the Tuesday. And again, I think we have to plan for 2 meetings a month in the event that the agenda items get long, or if anybody doesn't realize, our meetings, well, they've been fairly well, but when our meetings start going to 10, 11 o'clock at night, we gotta start splitting up agenda items. It's, eventually that may happen, and I think it will happen. But again, I think the intent of Brian is to basically just digest it tonight, and then talk about it amongst yourselves, to yourself, or whatever the case may be, and then bring it up at next meeting.
I think the next meeting, we've gotta come up with a conclusion. And Jeanette, I'll go back and look at my inbox.
But if you do Tuesday night, though, what does it do Marcy's work?
I also can do Tuesday nights.
You
Yeah, we
can't
schedule
do
patients.
Monday nights work the best for me, because I have trainings that I have to go to, I have other meetings that I have to go to, I have a full-time job.
We've kind of got our life planned around these Monday nights now.
Yeah.
We've had them for who knows how long.
Then let's do it on the fourth Monday. We just have to come up with another option of paying the bills, regardless if there's a holiday or not, we're on the fourth Monday.
Again, I think the intent is to digest it tonight, bring it up for the next meeting. Is that all right?
Yep. And that ends my report.
Thank you. Public buildings and properties, parks and recreation, trustee Lewis.
Okay, ordinance for park rules is work in project with the village attorney. Well-established park improvements, we're gonna talk to Buddy as far as that goes. We also wanna talk with Beecher Rec as far as getting on that. I know we're gonna be talking about ball field restoration here real soon. The weather's starting to turn. We're 60 degrees warmer today than we were a week ago.
Talk to me on Friday when it starts dropping in the beginning of February, we're gonna get another cold snap like we just had. We're not out of the woods yet. Johnny arrested that skating rink a little too late.
Yeah, I know. We can blame this winter on John.
I'll take it.
Okay, next one on my agenda is the Dixie Highway project. We're gonna table The motion as far as letting bids, we just received the plans and everything from Mike. So we're gonna review that, we're gonna put it on the agenda for next month. We had a little water main break in the building today, so we had a little, we started the demo on the building.
Head start,
Right?
head start.
We have a head start on the demo. So we got the carpeting out of there, we got the tile out of there, we got a concrete floor. So we're ready, we're already started our demo.
The floor's been washed quite.
Also come down tomorrow.
Not much dust.
You're on a roll, why not?
Don't hurt me in the least. Consider it done.
At least it happened on a nice, kind of, not a 15 below day today.
Yeah,
when
so
that
we-
water was- Otherwise, we would have had ice skating inside the
That's
hotel.
right, that's right, indoor.
You know,
Indoor ice
Okay, so we're gonna table those two. I also would like to make a motion to approve a bill from Elder Flag in the amount of $574.90 from the Veterans Memorial account to replace the flagpole bench by November 17th windstorm.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor, and there's a second. Any questions on the
I
motion?
have a question. Do we know why that flagpole bent?
Because it had two flags on it.
And it was been prior.
It had the Missing in Action and also the American flag. So it had the largest flag on it with another flag.
So the pole we're buying, is it a
Sure.
thicker style gauge
Same-
pole?
It's the same size.
So it's only gonna have one flag on it, and then
Isn't it a bit thicker?
I think that other flag wasn't your problem. I think the American flag and its size is probably your problem. And if you're not going with a thicker gauge, you better buy two. Because you're gonna see this again when you have high winds like that.
those winds.
It was amazing how quickly that bent that pole and the angle it was at.
Right.
I mean, it was at a 67-degree angle.
If we change the pole size, we gotta dig the memorial out before you new footing, because
There's a
it's the only
sleeve.
footing for that pole.
Remember, it was bent prior to that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was
But
bent
that would
slightly
change
prior to
the-
that.
That would change the OD of it, the outside
If you
diameter.
keep,
You'd
if you
still
keep
get a
the
heavier
OD
gauge.
there, you're just going with a thicker gauge with the same OD. You don't care what the inside is. It could be a straight bar or a straight pole. It's with no hole in it at all.
Yeah. Well, we already have it.
Yeah, you need to get it up, absolutely.
Need to get
Poles
it
in
up.
the shop, it'll be in the spring.
But I wouldn't put a second flag on it, just.
I'm not, I have no intention to.
Just put the American flag on it.
But Brian, it did get bent before, and we straightened it back out with, the bucket truck. And some,
What caused it to get bent before?
Same thing.
Bucket truck.
It was a storm.
same thing.
It was another storm. It was the previous storm that we never get. It was about
The only thing
6
we
months
can
earlier.
do,
100-year
the
storm,
only other
6 months
option
ago.
is to take the flags down if we have,
Pending storm.
weather coming.
You could do that.
Bob, when you called the company, did you ask them specifically what could?
I wanted a thicker pole, and they said, you gotta replace the footing, because the sleeve is fitted for that specific pole. And they said you shouldn't be flying two flags on it, because it's not designed for that. So we'll try with one flag.
That small flag did not make the difference. There's no way that small flag made that much of a difference.
All I know is there was a
compared to
tree 50 feet north of the memorial that snapped in half, so it was a pretty strong wind.
When the manufacturer says,
That's
Well, if there's 5 other poles, nothing happened to those, they have
It's
one
a
flag.
smaller flag. The American flag was almost twice, twice the size.
well,
Well, that could be, I don't know.
You go with a smaller flag. And, it did get a little exaggerated after the storm, because there was some kids that climbed up there and bent it a little more, so go figure.
Okay.
okay, any other questions? Roll call.
Whalen?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Cleary?
Yes.
I have another item that came up today, just for informational purposes. Todd Kraus, VP from Beecher Rec, called today, and he's ready to order the scoreboards for Fireman's One, and also the north field on Fireman's Park.
So you need power.
We need power.
Not right this minute, we're getting ready to order them.
Bean yet?
Or ordering two, we have the funds approved.
God, yeah,
Now,
yes.
what Todd is going to do too is we're going to put a sleeve, just like what we were talking about for the American flag, on the north field, so that can be taken out you know, we're gonna put it up before the games start, and we're gonna take it down again in the summertime, or late summer, whenever it's not used. So, we're doing that. There's no problem with that, correct, as far as this slip hole?
As long as Bill Boss knows where it is, it doesn't hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's a lot of contributing factors there. I need to get with somebody, I need to get with you, Scott, to see exactly where they're gonna put it, because I know we had some power issues on that north end. Remember, we were gonna put lights all the way around there?
Right.
And they said that there was, ComEd, so there was a big issue with north coming from, the one pole on the north corner of the lot there.
Okay. So we'll get together. Because before you know it, you know, spring's gonna be here. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, we don't wanna go, you know, trying
No,
to.
I mean, I'm sure there's something can be done, it's just, you know, you can't wait till the last minute and say, oh my God, we gotta
Right.
Is
run
there-
300 feet of cable.
Is there anything you're gonna need ahead of time, like the specs of the electronic scoreboard? or
Probably,
anything like
I need to
that?
know,
That would be
yeah,
helpful.
that would probably help a lot. I have to know,
Yeah, if you could forward those on to.
Who's providing the sleeve, Scott?
What's that?
Who's providing the sleeve that this thing's gonna go into?
The sleeve is going to be done all in the sign. You're going to install the sign as well.
Yes, we
Or the
will
company
be
will over-
installing them.
So there's,
Not us personally,
a
but we'll-
sleeve will be put into the ground,
In
and then the
concrete.
sign gets slid into those sleeves.
Right.
Similar to that, yes. It's sort of like these new basketball hoops they have where they place the footing in the ground and then the pole or the hoop goes on there so it can come off later. It's gonna be similar to that. And then there'll be 2 poles, they're gonna be, I believe they're gonna be I-beams, and then they'll go on that, so in the summer, not only the scoreboard, but the poles can come down too on that north field 3.
So how are you gonna interface to the electric? It's not gonna be solid wired.
That's why I'm coming to the city.
Right.
I don't know how.
We're gonna have to bring a box up to the base of that sign.
You need to kill that power when that thing's not in use.
Well, see, we have another issue too, because the ribbon of hope is going to be lit throughout the year as well.
But it doesn't have a sign sticking out of the ground. You're gonna have electric sitting there that if you disconnect that thing and it's not solidly piped, and you remove that, you've got a box exposed to young kids. You gotta kill that power and lock it.
Right. No, we know that.
And then when it comes to the sleeve, when you pull that pole, how are you protecting the sleeve? Because you're gonna have winter, freeze thaw, you're gonna have everything. Once that pole's pulled, and even during the 4th of July, does the sleeve have a cover on it that's
Most of
gonna
them
be
do,
latched
yeah. I
on?
think they got like a cover that goes over the top of the sleeve that'll expose it from the elements getting in and freezing and expanding and cracking the sleeve.
I'm just saying, I'm hearing about a sleeve. There's a lot that's gotta be thought about when you guys do this.
I'm sure it's gotta be a good 4 feet in the ground at
This
least,
is
and then barbed out.
This isn't your idea, this is from the manufacturer, this is how it's done, right? So they gotta have,
No, in the meeting we had with
Right.
you guys, the field 3, you guys had said you wanted those poles removed, as opposed to field 1, that's gonna be a permanent structure. So if that's not, that was what we thought you guys wanted on
Right,
the field.
but
because
this is-
of the carnival and that kind of stuff, but
Right.
has the manufacturer done this before is what I'm asking?
I don't know, I didn't ask. It just comes with instructions on, you know, how far to dig and, you know, if you're gonna use an I-beam and brackets and all that stuff.
This
So
would
there
be
are
the outlet
specs
of
to
number
that.
3, right?
No, because I think when we discussed it, we were looking at putting it along would be the first base, along
First
that
base.
fence line, first base line.
Right, between the fence line and the walking path. Right back in
So
there.
it'll be right along that fence line of
Is it
the
LED?
west side.
Is it an LED scoreboard?
It's going to be, yes.
I think they make those that are rechargeable, because Illinois Lutheran has one without power, it's got a battery on the back. And then you just plug it in, and when they take it down, they plug it in and recharge it.
But my thought is, and probably we're gonna have to sit down talking, if it's along the first brace line between the path and let's say our property line, for lack of better terms, why would it have to be taken down? So that we may have to just revisit it, you may not have to take it down. Because it's not in the way of the carnival, which was, I think, was our concern at that particular point in time. I think the one, and then where is the one in Fireman's One going?
We were looking at putting along, that would be the third base side, which would be the closest to the parking lot.
Same thing then.
Yes.
Right.
That will be out of the way, because that'll be next to the lights.
So you may not have to
So
take
it'll
it
be in line with those lights,
Well,
so it won't be in the way of
you know,
You
we're
don't have to take it down, you can hard pipe it and
down.
forget about it.
And then you're gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone because they need power to the memorial anyways, eventually.
That's
Right,
not
buddy?
gonna happen?
Right, buddy? Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think what we do is we would probably run a line from our 220 amp box that we got by the T-ball field.
Which,
Right across there. That's
if
what I
they're
think
going
we're
down
gonna
to
do.
third base line by the fire, from Fireman's One, right?
There's power
By,
there.
yeah, that's not a problem. Up on the north end of town, up north side is a problem. And getting it, and I think
Can
the
you grab it
closest
there?
drop is by Wojciechowski's house.
If you're gonna grab it by the third base line, grab it there and then go north, if there's a problem on the north end. Correct? You can trench it there rather than go across the ball fields.
Oh,
You
there's,
trench along the path.
there's a
Right.
couple different, yeah,
You got options.
You've gotta go into that
The only thing,
Your power's on the other side of that path.
We can make this work right, like.
I would still like to see this.
yeah, if I can get a guy at water, I promise you electric too, hell yeah.
You know, my concern is that it's gonna be up there year-round. Okay, there's gonna be possible vandalism and everything else. The Fireman's One is lit, you know, it's gonna be used at night, there's a lot of people around that one. I think that one we could use as a permanent fixture. I still think that one along that walking path should be ticketed in and out.
Well, the big
Just for
question
aesthetics
is, can
and-
you, I don't know how heavy this thing is, but you may be able to leave the poles in the ground and just disconnect it from the I-beams.
Yeah.
Depending on, because the back's not gonna have anything on it, all the stuff is in the front.
I know, but you have a pole sticking up and somebody runs into that pole. You
And
know,
you have a pole there with a sign on it and someone runs into that pole, it's the same pole.
yeah, but you can see a sign much better than a pole, especially at night. And see, that's another thing too, that there's gonna be too much there with the ribbon of hope and the scoreboard and everything else.
Well, the scoreboard's not gonna be even near Ribbon of Hope. It's gonna be down by the first base line, so it's not even, Ribbon of Hope is on the back side of
No,
that backstop.
Right, I know that.
And
But
a
I-
suggestion. You know, probably have to meet again as a committee and then come up with exactly what you wanna do.
Well, see, he wants to go ahead and order this.
You know what, get
It
us.
doesn't matter if you're gonna get it
Get the
removable or not,
schematics.
though. If that's the case, you plan on either getting it where you're gonna pull it out or leave it in
Yeah,
place.
you know what,
So it
before,
doesn't really
before
matter.
you buy it, get the schematics, you know, let me see everything that you got there. Scott, I'll get with you, we'll walk out like we did before, and I'll tell you what my idea would be. In fact, you might be able to kill two birds with one stone, because there's a couple other, well, you gotta have power going to your Ribbon of Hope too.
Right.
And like I said, eventually the idea was, we were supposed to put lights all the way around that
Right.
path. And there's always been a question about that power issue too. So now maybe it's the time to go ahead and pull the trigger and get one central box down over there,
Okay.
which would be my recommendation.
I
And
think
I
that
think that has to
possibly-
come by Wojciechowski's pole.
Or we can,
on the west side of the park?
Yes,
or we can even pull it off that box we no longer use.
but then you'd have to go all the way from the creek, Bob, all the way.
We can loop it all the way around that path. Loop that circle.
It's a lot of wire, man.
It's a lot of wire.
Yeah,
A lot, and it's gotta be in conduit.
we did look at that.
Yes, we did.
That's a bad move. Your voltage drop will kill you.
That's why we cut that out of the grant, because it was supposed to be looped all the way around the walking path with single lights.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Is it safe to say field one, the one closest to?
Oh, yeah, that's,
That's, that'll be an easy one? Okay.
Yes.
Is there a power drop there now? Where they can
There's a way that we can get power there, yeah, Bob.
Okay.
And then the other one, you know, if you want to order them both at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, if we have to wait field three to figure
Yeah,
out some.
we built the one at the
schematics on
girls
stuff.
softball field like 10 years ago, I don't see what, and that was all done with I-beams. It shouldn't be any harder.
Okay. We'll get it together. But we need to get it together pretty quick because.
I have the schematics,
All right, then.
I'll either email to you or scan and mail to you.
Yeah, that works for me. I'll go out there and plan it out.
All right, so let's talk in the next couple of days and get it done. Because I know you wanted to order them tomorrow, correct?
Yes, we have the funding in there.
Okay. Just a matter of getting power over there.
Okay.
I don't think you have a problem with either going out with
Get it in the
a
coconut.
pole that comes out or a permanent structure, correct?
Whatever you guys require, we'll
Okay.
figure it out again.
All right,
If it means getting that scoreboard there, we'll figure it out.
sounds good. Now, we bring up another item. Todd had mentioned that he's got a friend or an acquaintance that works with different cities and so forth as far as grants and writing of grants and getting different things done. And he thought that this gentleman could help us with the Light the Park project that we have. You know, we already have $20,000 from the state, you know, for the park. But Todd thought that maybe this guy could help out with getting us a grant for this project.
Yeah, and there's a company he works with, they're called Twin Supplies. The grant's called a DECO grant. I'm sorry.
We spoke with them last week, and they do not do bulk bids.
What, the DECO grant?
I'd pursue it anyway, but we've
Yeah,
talked
you
to
could try.
Ray.
Yeah, no,
We
we
just had a
talked to
meeting
him.
last week.
Who's the contact person?
His name's Paul Nowakowski. He does,
We talked to a Ray earlier. It's a big company. But if there's someone else in there that's got a different angle than the guy we talked to, because we tried that, it's a good idea.
Because this guy, didn't he do other?
yeah, the reason I went to the friend, he does park districts, he does grants for park districts. He specifically told me he uses this company. He said with this company is that they do all the grant writing. The way they make their money is that they do the actual physical work.
That's exactly what we acquired.
But they would do all the research, all the footwork, everything. Villages, the only thing the village does is sign here.
Yep.
And submit paperwork.
If there's someone that knows more about that than Ray, maybe Ray just doesn't, municipal buildings and he doesn't know anything about the park. I'd be more than happy to.
I mean, that's what I specifically asked him. I told him it's for a ball field. I told him, you know, it's, because I was initially looking at going through rec, but we won't be able to go through rec, we have to go through the city. But I specifically told him what it was for, and he said, yeah, no problem. They're willing to do the research and the legwork, all that stuff, without any obligation to the city or anything. I'm gonna have them come out in a week or two and look at everything, and see what they say, without any obligation to anybody for anything. I already told him I'm not speaking on behalf of the city, I don't have that authorization or anything. This is just research to get as much information that I can, hopefully move this forward and get it done.
Yeah, I think we should go and start the research. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Not gonna hurt.
What they'll do is they'll change out the ballast and the lights, they won't change the poles. And then we have one of those poles.
Well, maybe if they do the rest, maybe we can do the polls.
Right.
You know, because we
We
have.
have the money from the state and then
Right.
the other fundraising we can do in the meantime.
Right, the money from the state, we don't have to check yet. We always get these letters from the state, oh, we just awarded you $20,000 for this. Show me the money.
Right.
Am I right?
Check is in the mail.
Yeah.
As long as you're on the subject of Twin Cities, what we did is the light bulb work went on for the park lights. So we had him come out from primary for the main purpose of the park lights, but he fixed that. But then we had him do a survey for all the municipal buildings, and we had him to take a look at the street lights that we own. Correct, but to see if in fact we can do the same thing where they come back, replace it, they pay for it, and you get better illumination and so on and so forth. It's gonna be interesting to hear if the one guy says one thing and the other guy says another.
What was your contact, Bob?
My guy was Ray Hurley. He came recommended to us from the school district, because the school district used him for all their facilities.
And the fire department.
And the fire department, and then someone different did the township out here.
In fact, I will say, 8 months ago, two of his other guys, his field engineers, they were out, and I actually went through them, you know, with our stuff before too, and, you know, I thought Musco Lighting had a grant program also.
You know what? If Todd knows a different guy in the organization that specializes in park lighting, maybe our guy didn't know. It's a
Whatever,
big company.
yeah, never hurts to talk to him.
They may just be used to doing buildings, and this guy's done the parks, big difference.
Why not?
Or say, they just tell me no.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
That's true. And then I just wasted my time, so it's not big.
Did your metal halide lights pass the test in your new shop?
Oh, my stuff's good, yeah. Your stuff, on the other hand, is screwed.
That's pretty good.
Anything else?
And also, George gave me a heads up for the Chicago Cubs, which we're pursuing as far as possible help with the lights and so forth. So we need that type of input. Thanks, Todd, for, you know, calling and getting things together. We'll let you know as far as the scoreboards.
Okay, I'll get all the schematics here.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Okay. And thanks, George, for your input as far as the lighting. We want to get those lights changed any way we can.
We don't want clubs, like, so we want socks.
Now it's on.
They don't want a sign.
Now it's
I'm
on.
out, sorry.
Anything else?
All right, that's it.
All right, planning, building, and zoning committee, trustee Aaron.
The building department monthly report was enclosed for your review. Casey special use permit request update. PZC held a workshop on this petition and moved to set a public hearing for January 23rd. Like to see all of you there, if possible. Update on the special use variance application and fee and revisions to the fence ordinance concerning solid fences around pools. We agreed to set up a meeting for January or February to discuss this matter further, in addition to the discussion of the original architectural code approved by the committee as an attachment to the fall annexation agreement. That ends my report, and Scott, we need to get together and.
Yeah, let me know.
Yes,
You want to mention the other hearing for Dutch American Foods?
Oh, for the fence?
Yeah.
You're,
Same night.
Yes, it'll be the same night. We're gonna have a public hearing on the fence around their new,
Sidewalk.
Okay.
And that ends my report.
Thank you. Public safety, trustee Paul.
Yeah, police department monthly report and code enforcement monthly report is enclosed for your review. Animal report of the animal control program. Dr. McKay handled 13 dogs, 21 cats, 6 rabbits, and an injured goose. And the status of these animals is provided in the enclosed report. The cost of the 2013 program was $1,120. School safety and security, Chief.
Let's see, Officer Leroy participated in the lockdown drills at Zion Lutheran School during December. Again, the drug sniffing dogs made their annual appearance at the high school the month of December. And in January, the early part of January, we actually participated in a drill at the high school involving staff, and some students volunteered also. We did some rapid deployment training and exercises using blanks and shooting some guns so they know what it sounds like inside. But that went off well, and as you know, it's part of the school that they have to. It's part of the law now that we have to participate with them annually with these drills.
So we're getting the parochial schools involved also?
Yes, we are involving them also.
Okay. Robocalling presentation. The chief has a presentation prepared on this topic, and the Community Relations Committee has already met to hear this presentation and discuss further. However, due to the late hour of this meeting, this presentation to the village board will be deferred until February meeting. Is that correct?
I believe so. You want it scaled down a little bit, or do you want the
I
presentation
think
that?
what you gave was 20 minutes, and that's good.
Okay.
I think that'd be fine. We'll do it just like the engineers did tonight.
Okay.
There you go, game on.
Anything else, chief?
I have nothing further, no.
Any questions of the chief or myself? And that completes my report.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, trustee Corr.
On with the marathon. All right, water department and sewer department monthly reports are enclosed for your review. Along under a separate cover, there is the water billing register for the months of November and December. Parkway tree planting was completed the week before Christmas. As we discussed at the last meeting, after talking with the nursery, they advised us to get those trees into the ground as soon as possible, and we did. Also in our packets is a letter that we enclosed to the residents that were receiving those trees to help them understand why and when we were doing it. Valve turning report, we're still waiting on that. Buddy's gonna have that ready to go for us in February, along with Miller Street sanitary force main update. We should have that. We have the company set to come televise it. We're hoping that that'll be done this week, and we'll have something to report on that next week or next month for you. Weir for Prairie Crossing North Retention Pond. The engineers gave us just a rough drawn schematic of something that an idea that we could do for that. They were supposed to be getting some numbers on the final heights of everything to know the exact size of this, to where if we chose to have that fabricated, we could move forward with that, which is something that I think would work based on just looking at the design of it, but we gotta wait for more information on the engineer on that. VFDs for the booster station pricing, I think Buddy's been in contact with Austin Electric, we're just waiting for the final numbers on that to come back in. That's for budgetary purposes moving forward. Street name, am I going too fast for you, Jeanette? Street name, sign and pole update. 2 months ago we talked about and asked for the consensus of the board to go ahead and move on that without having yet received the MFT funding that we would use to pay for that. Since that time, we have received the funding, the special MFT funding that's in there. Public Works will be ordering these signs this month, and when winter breaks, we'll be ready to install the new poles in Hunter's Chase subdivision, which is our next phase of the street sign replacement. Item 10 was already covered. Item 11, replacement of piping and pump in the wet well at the sewer plant. As you may recall, we had the pump slide off the rail in the wet well at the sewer plant because of the coupling rusting off. We will be diverting flow to the wet well to install the new pump and coupling. This will require the contractor, which will be Gas Voda, to enter the well in a confined space operation. Did we get a final number from Gas Voda on that? Should be right around that 9,000 mark, right?
Yeah, you already signed the contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, John did, or it's plant operator. So that should be done hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Weather permitting in the next probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I would think so.
All right, next item is consider a resolution approving the use of MFT funds for 20% of the project cost. 26, which would equal $26,000 for the Safe Routes to School grant project for the installation of new school zone signage and solar flashing lights. The project in there is there's a description of the resolution in the packet. The project is estimated to cost, engineer estimate, $113,000, which would mean we would be committing $26,000 for our 20% if we receive this grant. So I'll go ahead and I'll make a motion. Resolution number?
2014-2.
For resolution 2014-2, approving the use of MFT funds for 20% of the project cost, equivalent of $26,000 for Safe Routes to School grant project for the installation of new school zone signage and solar flashing lights.
Second.
Motion on the floor, second. Questions to the motion? Roll call.
Cleary?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
All right, I got some information here that was put together today for everybody for the last item. Just hand it out real quick.
There's 2 points to that though, John. One's the fine and the other is the fixing.
What's it?
This first one is thawing it. The next one is fixing it. So it's gonna be 2 points.
You got some reason? You ever seen that before?
What? Not a year ago.
Does Bud need one? Bud, do you need one?
Kid wrote
Come on.
All right, on the agenda, consider a motion approving payment to Sunset Sewer and Water to replace the water service line which froze by the main at 405 Prairie. Just so everyone knows where we're at, there was a problem on Prairie which had a frozen water service line. If you guys look at your map on the back, problem is that when Melrose Lane was added, everything ended at the property lines of 404 and 411 Prairie Avenue. When that was added on, there was no water main looped between Pasadena and Prairie. For this little bit of the map that you can see, you'll see that pretty much around blocks we have loops of our water mains, which is important. What was done, you can see two little black lines, thin black lines. They go across right by 87, by valve 87. They run across 415 and 411, and then go on a diagonal across the street, and then down the street to 404. What was done is, rather than running a water main, there was a 1-inch copper service line that was ran all that distance to a B box, and then dropped to 3/4 at the B box and ran into the house. The next problem with this is that, which I have pictures of it, is this was done at a depth of 34 inches, which is above frost line. And it was ran against a concrete culvert that was underground, which creates more cold directly against the pipe. This homeowner has had, at 411, has had problems before, and has never contacted the village about his lines freezing up, because we assumed that he was under the assumption it was his own service line, and that it was his financial responsibility. So we never received any complaints prior to this. The gentleman lost water on Tuesday. We found out about it Friday morning. When we acted on this, we found out about it Thursday night? Thursday night. We acted on it Friday, which is what you saw from Ken's Water Systems. They added voltage to both ends of it to try to thaw it out, to no avail. We still have problems. Buddy had to dig a bunch of spots, as you see on Prairie Avenue. We have kind of a war zone over there right now. The resident has been restored water. However, this problem is not resolved, big picture wise. We have that service and also the one going to 404, which we don't know for sure, but we could only guess was probably buried at about the same depth. So we do know that the residents prior had problems. So in action to that, we went ahead and we have kind of come up with two different options as a solution to this problem. The committee's recommendation, me and Brian had met on this, and we believe option 2 is our best bang for our buck. What option 2 does is that allows us to run water main between Pasadena and Melrose, connecting this to, looping the system the way it's supposed to be. And it also provides a chance where, if you look at the map between 404 and 412, there is a vacant lot. Option 1 kind of handcuffs you. It really wouldn't increase their water flow or anything. And that'd be a lot for 3 service lines if that were to ever come about, being on a 2-inch line. Our recommendation is option 2. I have pros and cons listed for both, and I'm open for input from the rest of the board.
Jonathan, if I could just remind you, you also figured out that there was one service that if it went bad, rather than to replace that service, it would be easier to connect it to the new service. So
Correctly, yes. Also at, currently at 412, you can kind of see that that's actually a pen mark in that copy, where there's a circle running towards, and a line running towards 86. That's actually where that residence service line is connected into that. If the front of the house does face Prairie, if they were ever to have a problem with their own service line, rather than dig up the road, they would then be able to just, if we had a 6-inch main running on the west side there, from Pasadena to Melrose, the resident at 412 would always be able to abandon that service line that's running to Pasadena and be able to tap right on the prairie right there in the front yard.
Now, you're running the service line on the west side of Prairie?
Yeah,
Correct.
Ron,
No.
we need,
On the west.
we would need to,
Yes,
to locate the water main on the west side of Prairie, because there is a number of utilities on the east side, like natural gas.
Natural gas lines.
So, one, we don't want anybody just blindly digging in that zone. And your costs will go up for the fact that they've got to worry about all the utilities instead of utilities crossing their work zone, but working right with it. Plus, as John indicated, there's a culvert right there. When Buddy had dug that up, one frost for the Chicagoland area is 48 inches, it's 4 feet down. Why this was buried so shallow is beyond me. One of the other items that Buddy had found, when he was digging, he had to dig. It took a while to break through, but when he finally did, it was solid. But they used road mix to cover this thing up, which made it even worse, because road mix absorbs moisture, which makes the situation even worse. Frost is, the idea, what you need to do is, you're below frost, you avoid heating, which is gonna cause a pipe break. It was copper line, buried in the ground at too shallow of a depth, which caused the problem. Plus, being a service line into a house, the line was too small. We're in full violation of any rules and regulations for water systems. So this whole thing was a Band-Aid waiting to break.
Well,
It's a 1-inch line to one of 3 buffalo boxes, then it goes to 3/4 inch.
Yeah, I figured, also, there should have been, between that culvert and the service line, there should have been a 10-foot separation.
So,
And it was up, it was literally up against the culvert, Gil, which, couldn't have frozen any better if you wanted to.
There's a million reasons that this should have never happened, but it did. And this occurs at one other spot in town. The plan is, when that portion of Penfield gets fixed, we will resolve that one with another loop and resolve that one issue. But there's a few, we're trying to eliminate the major issues in the village. And the idea, by tying the 2 water mains together, it's hydraulics. So we're using, the thing right now is, as John's indicated, we keep talking about looping. Why do we really care about looping? Looping allows us that if there's any hydraulics going on or hammering, you spread that out so that it's not a large hit. So your water main can take more of a disruption. Dead-ending this thing is not the answer. That would mean you need to put up a fire hydrant where we normally don't put them, just because we're trying to be cheap. And it doesn't really fix the problem, because you're gonna have additional issues in the future. So your best bet is to just put the main connection in and tap off like you would do any other residence in the village.
This is something that's been bothering me, because there's a $12,000 difference in price. And, you know, I kind of spoke with the mayor about it this afternoon, and I've talked with Bob about it. And in my opinion, I know me and Brian are both on the same page as this, with this, is that as this, with our sewer and water system as Public Works Chairman, we have priorities. And number one is service to the residents that we charge for, that they pay taxes for, and that's, you know, sewer and water being one of them. And the other thing is that at all times we have to keep our eyes open of the system as a whole. So, yeah, this really doesn't affect, you're not replacing a water main where a whole block of houses on both sides are getting new water main. It helps out a few residents, but not a lot. But the big part to it is that as a whole, our water system as a whole, this creates an improvement for that system by looping it, by running the main down. And we're not kicking the can down the road. Do any of us think that that vacant lot is gonna sell anytime soon or anything like that? Probably not, but you know what? 25 years from now, if something were to happen, somebody were to buy all 3 of those lots and say, I wanna tear these 2 down and build 3 houses on these 3 lots, they'd have the ability to do it. You know, a board in the future wouldn't be going, why did they run this 2-inch poly pipe here just to get service to these two houses without taking care of the whole half a block? You know, like I said, we got pros and cons here, you know, for both. I think some of the big things to take into consideration is the cons on doing option one is the no fire flow, no room for additional taps. And I think the pros that really push this into the favor of us leaning to option two is, one, the ability to isolate for water main breaks. We wouldn't have to shut down all of Melrose or all of Pasadena to take care of something on Prairie. We could isolate just Prairie and take care of Prairie in the future. And the fire flow. I think those pros and cons outweigh the $12,000 difference, and again, our recommendation is option two.
The other thing is, and it's kind of a con of option one, but it is a pro of option two. No real value to the system. Right now, this provides you additional hydraulic capability to the overall water system. Bob and I were talking after John and I talked this afternoon. If you look at 411 and 404, just up the page, you're going to see a line going all the way across from 653 all the way to 519. That entire area parallel to Melrose Lane was put in around 1972 to 1973. So these two locations, 411 and 404, were literally the end of a dead-end road. So from the village's standpoint, we want to put a dead leg on a dead-end road. So they took these, as I could see why they did it. It was a service to one location. And one of the comments that John made when we brought this up on Friday night was it would make more sense that when they built this location that they would have connected. And all they really did is create the ring. They were done. They had no more commitments to the village. But it puts a liability against our water system that we're really responsible for. I mean, this is, while we're a corporate entity, we own a business.
They created their ring, Route 1. Okay.
So if anything, this provides you more reliability even between Melrose Lane, Pasadena. This section of town it's a better, reliable system. And in the process, you resolve a very fatal flaw in our overall water system.
I just want to make a comment for the state, for proper disclosure. My mother-in-law lives in 404 Prairie. That's why I've been silent on this issue. I think most of you probably knew that anyway. Also, the vacant lot you're referring to there currently, and I'm not saying we couldn't build on it, but that lot was split in half, and half went to the house to the south, the other half went to the one to the north, about 25 years ago. And I think the guy wanted to sell the lot, and each of the owners took half. But it doesn't mean that one of the owners couldn't buy the other half and build a house on it. And I want to reiterate that this happened back in the early 60s, because I want to say at 404, Marv Teskey built that house in the early 60s, and Ida Mae Keebert, or the Kieberts built 411. That was the edge of town. There was no Melrose. And they just ran the services, like Brian said, off of Pasadena there. And then when Bud Van Alden built Melrose Lane, that subdivision, I think he looped it from Dixie Highway to the sewer plant, and then they left that. And I know in the early 90s, the village board looked at putting that main in, and we had a high price. Of course, back then we had the money, 60-some thousand to put the main in. Robinson designed it. And we said, oh, we can't afford that. Instead, we will commit to those two residences that we will maintain the service on. And there's written agreements to that effect.
Now,
That was back in 91, 92.
One of the other things that John and I looked at, because we had just finished up doing the Maxwell Street water main replacement. And Maxwell Street, if you took that in portion, and right now it was 96,000. It was twice the length that we're dealing with.
Maxwell Street, I looked it up, was 760-something feet.
So we're about half the length.
More than half.
We figured if you took it in half, you're around 45,000. You're doing this for 25,000. In foot per installation, we are literally at 1/4 of what we paid on Maxwell. And the reason is, when we did Maxwell, we went out on bids. It was done when they were busy and you're buying them. Right now, in the winter, They need work. This is keeping their guys engaged. Pipe cost isn't going up, it's labor to do the work. And they're literally bidding this out at 1/4 the original cost we would have paid out of our tax money.
With that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make a motion, which will be approving payment to Sunset Sewer and Water to install a 6-inch water main from Pasadena to Melrose, creating a loop in the system at the price of $14,025.
John, wait. You can't do that right now. Right now, you talked about considering motion of payment for them to freeze. You gotta get this approved before you get to this. There's two options. Approving the payment to Sunset to replace, oh, okay, you're right.
And the 14,025 is what Sunset is gonna be providing in labor. We will be providing the materials. In that price of the materials at $6,227, we have in there the cost of the valves, which I believe we already have in-house, but we included them for everyone to be able to see true cost, because those will have to be replaced for our in-house stock. Same thing with the B boxes and stuff like that, right, buddy? I mean, so this motion is for Sunset Sewer and Water for $14,025, which is what their proposal was for.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
Does everybody understand the motion?
Yeah, two things. First of all, my mother-in-law's never had any documented problems with her service line. But I think Mark Teskey did 25 years ago, and that's what caused this discussion. But we do have a current problem across the street with that guy right now. Second of all, how are we gonna pay for this, Brian?
Go to your variance report.
Brian, you tell me, but I was thinking maybe if we did labor, which would be the $14,025 out of water and sewer capital, and did the materials and restoration, which restoration is also, materials, that's got all the stone figured in, sod, so on and so forth. Do the materials and restoration costs out of water and sewer, water main replacement?
Well, I think they're all under the same location.
They're two separate funds.
Because what I was looking at was, and Bob and I wanted to make sure I had the right number. It's 53,22,951, which is capital reserve contributions.
Yep.
Which is 38,736, is what's remaining in the budget. Or that's budgeted today. Right now, we've got 38,583.50. What was the other one, Jen?
I was thinking capital. Yes, capital for labor, materials and restoration on a water main replacement.
What number are you in?
You would charge it to the same line item, Brian,
Right.
because water main replacements is sub-account to the capital.
It would all come out of the same
Correct.
line item, out of that, the 53-22-951.
Right.
But the funds that would actually pay for it would be water main replacement, pay for the material and restoration, and water and sewer capital pay for the labor.
That's what we had talked about that too.
Is that what you were thinking also?
Bob and I were talking about, if you and I talked, John, he and I called him up concerning this. We were talking about the options we had in front of us where we could put this through, so that's the way to do it, Bob.
What we would do is just take the materials amount and transfer it out of water main replacement over into capital.
Okay, one other question, do we have any estimated time for completion of this project?
They can start right now.
They could start pretty much whenever. We got 48 hours for locates, so I'd like to think they could be going by the end of the week.
We talked to Bobby Jones too, because we're still up with Bobby. We talked to her today.
And she was very comfortable understanding.
Okay, since we've taken care of the questions, I want to make sure, does everybody understand what you're voting on? So everybody understand the motion? Okay.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Capros.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
I've had a lot, but anything else?
Then, the only unfortunate thing, again, this is a crisis we have to solve, we just keep pushing back our other projects we want to get to, you know what I mean?
Which was listed in the cons, but
Yeah, that's the sad thing, in these types of crises that pop up.
If the section of the village was designed correctly and connected correctly, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And right now, if you would do the quick fix,
just kicking
you'd
the
be
can down
having
the
the
road.
same problem and you've already spent the money and not recaptured.
Economic Development Committee, Relations Committee, Trustee Meyer.
We had a committee meeting on January 8th where the chief did a presentation on an upgraded version of Nixle, which is, we talked about it earlier, a robocalling type program. And as we went on to the details of it, which will be presented next month, we decided that it would probably belong more under public safety than under communications. So that's being turned over to the Public Safety Committee next month, where the chief is going to do his presentation. We're actually also meeting Wednesday with a company that does a smartphone app that has a lot more of the communications capability for residents. You can download the app, you can do some types of alerts. There's a lot of things that can link you to different businesses in the community, news of community things that come up. So we're going to be meeting with them Wednesday morning to talk about that. It's not something that would replace the other, it's something that's in conjunction with and a little less emergency related than the other program is. The intergovernmental meeting agenda is set and this is scheduled for Thursday, January 30th. And we were given a copy of the 4-year strategic plan last month's meeting. The copy of the resolution and the plan is attached. And if anybody has any questions or still wants to discuss it, we can. Otherwise, I'd like to make a motion to consider a resolution to adopt the 4-year strategic plan for the fiscal years 2014 to 2017.
It's 2014-3. There's a motion on the floor.
Second.
There's a second. Any questions of the motion? Roll call.
Larry.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Capros.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
And more discussion on wayfinding signs for the old downtown area. The businesses in the old downtown area, Gould, Reed, Penfield, still wish to have a way to put signs at Dixie and Penfield all year round and not just 60 days out of the year. There are options to have the Chamber of Commerce possibly, or Downtown Merchants Association lease some space on private property.
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't we refer that to committee and maybe you can have these two groups meet with you on that particular point in time with the committee and make a recommendation back to the board. That's all right with everybody.
And that concludes my report.
Nice short report.
How do I do it?
I don't write my own. Believe me.
Okay.
We dealt with some major issues though, John.
Iliana Expressway. Okay, we attended a meeting on the expressway and the airport within the last week and this week. Iliana Expressway, we learned that 5 companies, very large companies, I believe 2 or 3 were based out of Illinois, have expressed an interest in building the Iliana Expressway. There's more to follow as time goes on. When we were meeting with the Iliana Expressway group, IDOT, we learned that the land north of the expressway up to Corning, so between the proposed expressway and Bernard's, east and west side of Route 1 actually is in a floodplain, which means that development probably could not happen there. So our development would go up to Corning, jump over Corning, Bernard's, the expressway, and then come back down to the south side of the expressway, in fact, for future development and so on and so forth. In that presentation, they also, I called it Holy Land, but they've also grabbed land or have planned for land that basically outlines your cloverleaf. If you can imagine, a lot of times when you see the cloverleaf, there's a frontage road that leads into some development. So let's imagine south of the expressway, east and west side of the street, you have places where, let's say, gas stations could develop. But if you notice, there's a frontage road that feeds it. In this particular case, IDOT is prohibiting anybody from going across that with driveways and so on and so forth. So you have to go farther south on a frontage road to get in those developments. And that we also learned when we went to the presentation by them.
Would you say it was about a half a mile, right?
Yeah,
Either side of the Juliana, you can't even drive.
you can't driveway, you can't cross it, you can't do nothing with it.
It's just like Weber Road. It's the same as Weber Road.
It's pretty much like,
Honestly, when you come off those ramps, you're gonna need a half mile just to get off the road. So I don't think that's a big deal.
Then go back to the airport, we were at an airport meeting today. In 2013, they obtained approximately 775 acres of land. Some of that land, right now, is in the process of being, not quick take, but condemned, condemnation proceeding. There were like 13 parcels of land are in condemnation proceedings. And I also found interesting, and I've said this all along, they are openly discussing on purchasing Bolton Field. In fact, the comment was made that they expect to purchase Bolton Field this year. The prediction,
Yeah.
Greater Chicago Airport, which used to be Milwaukee, which is close to O'Hare, I believe it is, I think that's what you're gonna end up, but this is gonna be very close. So one small airport is gonna provide maybe for the smaller Lear jets and the planes, but the other hypothetical airport is gonna provide for the cargo, and there seemed to be some discussion still over that. If any of you wanna take this down, and for the residents as well, you can subscribe what they're calling Site Up, Get Connected, and Stay Informed. It's www.southsuburbanairport, all one word, .com/connect. And apparently then, if you subscribe to that, you will automatically get updates. They are now, they formed a committee of IDOT, which is now assigned the task of getting the information out and sharing information with the public and everybody. So basically, that's one of the first steps they had, is for you to get updates with the airport. That's pretty much all I have on that. Route 1 corridor, Bob, you got anything on that?
Yeah, I received, since I'm on the steering committee, I received a stack of paperwork from the table up here on RFPs. We got 9 certified RFPs to do the Route 1 394 study. And I gotta evaluate those as part of that steering committee and submit, and then we'll interview the top 3 and then select. And we hope to have this whole study done by June 15th. It's gonna take a lot of time. That's just the 394 Route 1 piece. The Ileana piece is coming. And then we heard today an airport piece will be coming. So it's a full-time job.
Correct. Is there a way we can put that address or information on our website so if residents want it, they can get to it instead of trying to remember off this meeting?
Sure she can. We will try to do that.
Not even a smile. She's serious.
We had a fuel meeting, and we went out for bid, because the contract was due. Basically, one bid came back, which was from FS, is that correct? HFS, I knew there was H in there somewhere. Basically, the price came back for unleaded was $3.24, and the price for diesel came back at $3.50, which if you look at pump price today, that's a little bit lower depending upon where you go and what you do. And if you also look at the documentation that was provided in your packet, which they do for us every year, he averages out the total cost over the years of what the pump price were as opposed to what we paid, and basically we broke even, which is basically the up and down trend. And from past experience, it's probably going to still go up and down. We're going to have some days where maybe we could have saved some money, but then we're going to have some days where we didn't save some money. And in the long run, past experience has been that we've averaged out. Any questions on that? If not, can I ask someone to make a motion approving the bid for the purchase of bulk fuel for the coming year, March 1st to February 28th, on behalf of the Intergovernmental Fuel Committee?
So moved.
Motion made and second.
Second.
Hope so. Any questions on the motion?
Just a comment, when the Intergovernmental Fuel Committee met, they realized that today, taking the 14 cents over low rack would be a better deal. But all it takes is one terrorist act or fire the refinery and the prices go up. At least with these prices, we can lock in the budget.
All the governmental bodies said that it is better for them to be able to budget a firm price rather than a fluctuating price. It's better for the budget.
And the fuel is guaranteed.
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Nothing further on item 5 for the Union Pacific for the brush clearing. We have to get pictures to them. Beecher Mausoleum. There was a request, if you remember, I reported in the past that we provide police protection to the mausoleum. What I would ask is Trustee Coleman, if you and the police department can possibly sit down and discuss this, whether it's even possible for us to provide police protection to the mausoleum. As far as access, there's some concerns about the roads, whether we can even get back there. And then a thought of if we're gonna provide it for the mausoleum, would we provide it also for the cemetery back there? And then make a report back to the board.
Yes, sir.
Question. Right now, that is a private road. It is not under the village's area, therefore you're on a private drive. So in the wintertime, summertime, granted, you're gonna have to deal with tree roots, so 4x4 might be your best option. But what are we gonna do in the wintertime? I mean, the public works can't go back there and plow.
That's something I would like the committee to investigate and report back to the board.
Okay.
Okay, consider a motion canceling the January 27th and February 24th village board meetings and changing the time of the March 24th village board meeting to 6:30 and bring our pillows and blankets for the annual budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor, and a second. Any questions of the motion? Roll call.
Larry,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Whalen.
Yes.
I would ask for a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel compensation package for non-union employees for the fiscal year 2014 to 2015, contingent on the budget process, and I don't believe we're taking any action when we come back.
Second.
Motion made and second. Questions?
Gail.
Gail.
The question, do you want any guest president after?
Yes, I would ask.
Or maybe a family president?
Yes.
If you have no objections, I would ask that let Bob and Jeanette stay within the meeting. Roll call.
Whalen,
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.